Welcome to Brian Bick Bass, where you can learn to play like a pro. Hello and welcome back to Brian Bick Bass. Today we are going to be learning about posture. The importance to posture it's not an etiquette thing. It's not, shoulders up, chin back. I mean, you should have a good posture anyway for health reasons, but we're not worried about health, are we? We're worried about playing the bass. So the important thing is you're not going to keep your chin back because you need to see your fretboard, and your shoulders aren't going to be back because you're going to be moving your arms around controlling a bass guitar. You have a very heavy piece of wood either sitting on your lap or hanging from your neck. And with that considered, there is some adjustments you're going to make to your natural posture in order to control that bass. And the good posture is important in controlling your bass because you don't want your bass flying around out of your control. And so that's what today's video is about. So the first thing to consider is where you hold your bass. Now, if you're standing, you'll find your comfort zone in the strap length. It usually has a buckle right about here, or down here has a couple notches where you can adjust it. You want your bass to be in a position roughly where it is on me right now sitting. And when we get into how you hold your arms, your elbows, your shoulders, and your wrists, you're going to apply that to your bass while you're standing with your strap. So, but today, because of the limitations of my audio-video studio, we are going to be approaching this in a sitting position. So the first thing is, where on your body should you have your bass? So when you're standing with a strap, it does its own thing. It's going to be right up tight against you. When you're sitting, you want to replicate that. Now, I don't like it too tight because if it's right up sucking my gut in, I'm looking down at my fretboard and all I can see is my top string. I cannot see the entire fretboard. So I like to pull it out about 2 inches, 1 3/4 to 2 inches. And then with this gap right here, I like to lean it into me just slightly. Now, if you look at my headstock and you look at a completely vertical line, it's roughly about a 10-degree angle, 10 to 12. I don't know. I don't have a compass here to determine the angle, but you can see it's at a comfortable position where when I look down, I can see all the strings, but I'm not hunched over it, looking at it face on. It's right in the middle of that. Just a nice, comfortable where now I can barely see my G string, but I can see it enough. And from there, I don't always look at my fretboard when it's a repetitive bass line and it's in the same position. I tend to look at the audience or look at the camera. But for practicing, I like to know where my hands are. And my thing is when you practice as best as you can, and your muscles and your brain, your nerves will get used to playing at that skill level, and eventually you will organically and naturally play at that skill level. So when I'm practicing, I like to see my bass. The next thing is we have this angle right here. So the next angle to consider is this angle. So when you set this cutout right here on your leg, me personally, I don't like to be horizontal perfectly, because one of the way you approach where this hand is based on your palm relative to the neck. If you're horizontal, you need to twist. I mean, I'm extending my ribs here and compressing them here in order to get this. So I go natural. You want your body natural, a regular sitting position. And from there, with your elbow you want them at a position where you would stand. If you were just standing, that you don't want them in tight, you don't want them out here, you want them where they are if you were standing, walking, just standing in a neutral position. From that, bring your elbow up, and where your palm touches, you want the base level with that or parallel with that. So that's where you want it, and you want the base a little out and then leaned into you. Now, there's a geometry here, and if you look at it, there is a similarity with both aspects of this. If you look at this angle right here versus vertical, then you look at this angle versus horizontal, and they're going to be the same angle, roughly 10 to 12 degree angle. So with that said, the next thing to consider is this thumb and this thumb. So now we want both of our elbows neither tucked in or out. We want them natural and neutral. And with that established, you don't want your thumb over the top. Now, if you watch some of my music videos, you'll see my thumb stick up like this. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the thumb hooked over. The reason I bring this up is because there are some legendary guitar players who do this. But what they're actually doing is they're replicating a tool called a capo. And what a capo is a clamp. And it presses all the strings on the entire fretboard to tune the guitar up however many frets that the capo is pressed at. And then they treat the fret that the capo was on as if it was the nut in the 0 position. Meaning, if this is your G chord and this is your nut open, but if they put the capo here and it clamps right there, then this would be a G chord because all of these would be pressed from the capo. We don't play with capos. We're bass players. We don't need capos. So we don't need to hook our thumb over and do some weird chord that just twists our body up. We want to be fluid and we want to be comfortable because we got to keep moving and we got to walk around. And walking around means you need a fluidity in your joints from your neck all the way down to your hands. So the thumb position for your left hand is going to be roughly behind whatever finger you're fretting with, because you're not strangling the bass. I know you if you're new, that bass feels very difficult to squeeze. There are finger exercises, and I have videos on these exercises on how to develop that grip. The most important thing in developing that grip is to pinch. So if you're playing the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, this is a C on the A string, you want your thumb roughly behind it. So when you fret, you're not pulling, you're not hooking forward and then like doing a bicep curl, you're not strangling, you're just pinching. Just pinching. So no matter where you play, to start with, eventually, as you do finger exercises, you will develop better posture. For me, my thumb goes behind my center, right where my middle finger is going to be. That's where my thumb goes. And then I pivot according to how I'm playing. So if I'm on the 2nd position, my thumb is behind the 3rd fret, roughly 3/4 of the way up the neck. It's not in the center and it's not on the top. It's roughly 3/4 right there. And then my middle finger is on the 3rd fret. Now, my thumb does not change when I change strings. What happens is the force, the direction that I squeeze changes. So if I'm on my E string, I'm pinching perfectly this way. If I go to my G, so if I'm on my 3rd fret of my E string, which is a G, then I'm squeezing perfectly this way. If I go to the C, which is 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd string, I'm squeezing at slight angle. If I go to the F, which is 3rd fret of the D string, then I'm not pinching directly this way. I'm pinching in this motion from this spot to this spot, and so on and so forth. Now, when I go to the 2nd fret with my index finger, if you look what my elbow does, it just rocks proportional to my finger. Now, if I use my 4th fret, you see what I'm doing? I pick my neck up. And if I go to my 5th fret with my pinky, I pick my neck up even higher. So now, as I play, look at my angle. It's just a very relaxed, natural. It's not real. My elbow isn't bent a lot, but it's not way out here. It's on my leg, so it's not out here. I'm not reaching to play, but I'm not hunched up either. You want to be comfortable. You want your thumb behind the center of your fingers, whatever position you're playing in. And if you need to slide your thumb around, there's nothing wrong with that. However, you will get cramped and you will get tired. So work on my finger exercise videos. I do a lot of them. The more you practice them, the better you get. Even though there's no theory in there, there's no scales, it's just brutal, straightforward workout. And that'll develop your grip. And then you can put your thumb wherever you want. And you'll have the hand strength. But while you don't have the hand strength, and you fret and you're getting buzz, if that's the sound you're getting when you pluck, and it's not a deep, if it's just that, then you want to get your thumb directly behind wherever you are fretting. So now this hand, a lot of beginners, like I said, beginners put their thumb over the top. A lot of beginners put their thumb behind the bass. That is horrible. There's no reason to ever hold a bass like this. If you're carrying your bass, you want to carry it right here, right in this cutout, right there, where the neck meets the body. You never, ever, ever in a million years do you want your thumb behind your bass. It is so loud and so noisy and so out of control. Where you want your thumb, depending on what you're playing, you either want your thumb on this middle pickup, which is it's a bass pickup on this bass. On your bass, it might be a little different, might be a mid-range pickup. This is a treble pickup. This is your bass pickup. And some basses have a pickup up here, which is really bassy. I put my thumb there. Also, different styles, you'll get different tones. Remember in my video on getting to know your bass, you get different overtones depending on where you pluck the string. So if you pluck here, you get a beefy sound. However, if you put your thumb on the fretboard, you get a more melodic sound. I personally like punch, so I put it right here. Now, doesn't matter if you put it on your pickup or on your fretboard. Also, different basses, like a P bass has a piece of metal over that pickup, so you can't really put your thumb there. You'll just be plucking a piece of metal. So you would go on your fretboard, place your thumb there. The position of your thumb determines the position of the rest of your arm. You don't want to use your pad, and you don't want to use your tip. You want to go right in the middle at again, 45-degree angle. So at this spot right there, not here, but at an angle. That spot right there, I put on my bass. Now, where I put it is right in the corner where the pickup meets the body. The tip of my thumb goes in there, and then the front of my pickup touches on my pad. Now, once you have your thumb position worked out, then the next thing you want to do is take your index finger and your ring finger and put them on your G string. Just come right down on it, just like that. Now put your thumb where you like it. Now your arm is going to rest naturally. So if you look, I am roughly halfway. Now, you're not always going to, you don't want your arm rigidly there. It will move back and forth according to which string you're playing. Also, you want it right here. You don't want it in the depth of the cutout, and you don't want it on the top of the bump out. You want it, if your bass is right here, so your palm is parallel with if your arm comes up and it's parallel, then this is perfectly horizontal. And then you rest your arm there. Where you want to rest it is roughly halfway, anywhere from halfway to 2/3. So how you establish that? Put your two fingers on your G string. Put your thumb on your pickup. Now relax your arm. Now let it hang. Now test, can you reach all the strings? So now, as I move away from the E string, my thumb naturally goes to the E string, and that works because it muffles the string from vibrating and resonating as you pluck other strings. So now for pop slap, it's a completely different ball game. We'll get into that when I get into funk, slap, pops. As you can see, it's a completely different posture. So the takeaway from this is to be comfortable. You want to be in a natural position. You want your shoulders back. You can lean your head forward. That's fine. You want to see your fretboard. And if you're on stage, you're going to be kind of getting into it, grooving, jumping around anyway. But you want your elbows in a place that's natural, just where they naturally fall, your wrist where it naturally falls, your hand in where it naturally grips. And from there, you start your finger exercises. And so the next thing you're going to be doing is watching my video on finger exercises, and that will help you develop your posture. It'll develop your grip. It'll develop your precision, your accuracy, and your stamina, how long you can play bass for, which at this point you should be playing your bass about an hour a day. Anything more than that, you're gonna wear yourself out. Less than that, you're not going to progress at the speed you want to progress at. So remember, just stay consistent, be relaxed. You don't want to be rigid. You don't want to be tight. If your bass doesn't feel right while you play it, it feels alien. It's going to feel a little alien at the beginning. But if it feels out of place and unwieldy, adjust. Refer back to this video. Watch my other videos. Watch my posture when I'm just playing, offering instructions, and try to replicate that. But in general, get your thumb behind the fret you're squeezing. You don't want to grip. You want to pinch. We'll get into that on my video on fretting. You want your thumb naturally rested here. You want to be able to reach all your strings. As you walk up and down, your arm is going to be going forward and backwards, much like a fiddle player. And you'll be slightly leaned forward so you have line of sight to your fretboard. And you want your shoulders natural. You want your elbows natural. And that will develop your other skills. Now, as you practice your other skills, they will develop your posture, and they work together until the bass feels like it's just a natural extension of yourself. Because if you're focusing on where the bass is and what it's doing, you're not focusing on what you're doing. So, practice posture while practicing finger exercises, scales, and songs. You don't need to be awesome. You just need to be consistent. You need to practice every day. And with that, I will leave you with a little jam.